This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Neither of last season's champions managed to win the season opener at Road America last week. So much like the racing out on track, it appears no one can get comfortable and rest on their laurels. With today's race taking place at the notoriously difficult Phillip Island, even more focus will be needed. Whether it's dealing with the multi-class traffic or simply trying to perfect your line, it will undoubtedly be a challenge. We'll see who handles it best as we get ready to watch round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, this might be a track our American viewers might not know as well, so for the unfamiliar, tell us a little bit about Phillip Island.
Yeah, for sure, Joe. If you're new to Phillip Island, oh man, you've been missing out on the neatest little track down here on an island south of Melbourne, Australia. Set against a picturesque blue mirage known as the Bass Strait, the Phillip Island circuit is a tourist staple down here in Victoria. MotoGP and the V8 supercars make an annual visit to the challenging venue here, which consists of 12 turns. Some of these turns are blistering fast and seemingly endless, like the Southern Loop at Turn 2. Others are tight technical hairpins, where the car really gets unsettled on corner exit, like Turn 4 in the Honda corner. All these turns are connected by dramatic elevation changes and fast straightaways. Another challenge to look out for today is going to be traffic. Now, traffic is always a challenge here in Kamel GT, but the racing line switches sides of the track so much here, with turns going left to right and left to right again. All in all, it's a 4.5 kilometer circuit here today, or about 2.7 miles. The best way to get a good look at the track here in the land down under is to send you there in the GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. The front stretch is definitely the longest straight of the track, but while you'd expect that to mean turn 1 is an obvious passing zone, in the Nissan you don't lift it off for do-hand. Instead, the first real turn is down into the Southern Loop. But you can really chuck the car into here, and you're actually slowing the car as you're turning around this long left-hander. Be careful on the power to avoid the turbo lag, but also don't wait too long to get on it. With Stoner also not requiring any lifting, Honda is an especially enticing place to pass. But this is a corner that lures drivers into sending it in too deep and outbraking themselves. Once again, the exit requires a light right foot, and then you get no rest before you find the car heading into Siberia. This is a bend you definitely want to late apex, or else you're going to find yourself at a disadvantage on your way to the top of the hill. There's no lifting through the S's, so just hug those apexes and then stay to the right to set up for the incredibly tricky loogie heights. You can carry a lot of speed on this never-ending corner, but don't drift wide on the exit because this bleeds directly into MG. The downhill braking of this hairpin makes it a common spot for drivers to lock up a wheel or just go off wide. The penultimate corner needs a little bit of tiptoe, but from here on to the finish line, your right foot is going to be all the way to the floor. Try to minimize how much speed you scrub off through Swan because you don't want the car behind to gain on you. But from there, if you've kept it together, you've now finished a lap around Phillip Island.
You see a lap around Phillip Island. It's a little bit lighter outside during that. It's going to be late in the evening here during this race, but we're going to cover qualifying in a moment. First, we want to talk about the championship and where it sits after our first round. Going to the GTP cars, the prototypes, Fabian Gerber took the win over Ardo Iamaki, and Phil Lake wound up in third after a number of drivers in front of him wound up having trouble. Then Fabian Jungbluth down in 4th and John Keefe finishing 5th, just as the points look there on your screen. The GTP lights a little bit different as they were more spread apart. Hideki Koivisto, of course, finishing just ahead of David Slee, putting them 1st and 2nd. And Mike Kopak, the last of them, still competing. We could get more cars showing up, but they have not started races yet here in the AM Championship for the prototypes. Let's go to Nick for the Audi Championships.
Yes, indeed, Joe. And remember, like Joe said earlier, this is just after one round last week at Road America. Rob Olenek with a great battle there with Joni Hagner, but he is going to be on top of the standings with 22 points with Dirty Torque Racing up at the top, following right in front of Dennis Neidhart, who follows him, Milan Arnozzi, Ben Lafter, Adam Lindgren also up there as well. We also have the GTU standings, the AM category here in the Audis. We will take a look at them here. James Walker currently leads that with Caden Bean, Reed Miller, and Michael Haynes rounding out the 4 cars that comprise that after one round.
Now, if you've never watched these races before, let's give you a rundown of what's happening here today out on Phillip Island. As we mentioned, round 2, they get 2 drop weeks in this championship, so you do have room for mistakes or if you have to miss a race. And then, of course, we have a 40-minute race on tap. This is their sprint format, which means there are no stops for fuel that are scheduled. The setups are open on the car. Drivers can tweak them just to their liking. And there you see the scoring. A win nets you 25 points today. They have no spare car to keep them safe if they run into damage. And as we've seen in the past, that can be a frequent problem here in the Kamel GT series just due to the nature of the racing. Hopefully we won't see too much of it. Getting some qualifying times in, Ardo Iamaki leads the way in the GTPs, and Rob Olenek, coming off a win a couple hours ago in the Lotus 49, is looking for his 2nd pole of the day here in the GTO category. Unfortunately, we won't have Joni Hagner joining us this time, our winner from last week. Bit of a disappointment after the speed he showed. Now, we're, of course, watching this all on the iRacing Esports Network, and as always, we encourage everyone to subscribe to the channel. All you got to do that is go to their YouTube page if you're not there already, and click the big red button that says subscribe. Then you'll get all the iRacing content in your YouTube feed. So, as most of our GTP cars work their way through their 2nd lap, most of them have finished, especially the top drivers. That's pretty much settled. Waiting to see if anybody comes through to topple them. Right now, the 5th place driver, Stephen Warcup, coming across the line. He does not improve, unfortunately. Going to see if Hideki Koivisto can bump himself up. Right now, he's the slowest car with a lap time. And actually, he's just finished his 2nd lap, so he's going to continue to be the slowest car with a lap time unless we get the last 3 cars to put a lap in that GTP class. Riley Thompson just finished his 2nd lap. He was had a bit of a disappointing race last race, Nick. It looks like he's trying to make up for that. He'll be on the front row as it sits right now.
Yeah, Thompson did have a bit of a disappointing race. Finished 12th in the Audi class. Not exactly how he wanted to follow up a fantastic season prior to that race, but like you said, he's having a great qualifying stint so far in 2nd right now, only behind Rob Olenek, who is we have seen as like last week. He's going to be very fast today.
Now, Ove Trangarade crosses the line for his 2nd lap, improves to a 29 flat, and that will only put him in 5th. Unfortunately, Ove tends to be a driver with an immense amount of speed in this GTO class. I think we've just about finished everyone, seeing if anyone else has laps to complete. I think Graham Sanders in the GTPs is coming around to put his 1st time lap in. So is Kiradine Wapia. All right, actually, Kiradine just had an off just now. So that lap will not count for him, and he's not got enough time, I'm pretty sure, to complete his 2nd lap. That is disappointing considering we've seen in the past that Kiradine has incredible pace in these slower class cars.
You have not seen him in Kamel GT the last couple of seasons, but we've definitely seen him before in multiple different series, and he definitely, like you said, has a lot of speed.
This is Graham Sanders, who we're still riding on board with. He's going to complete this lap, and after that, he's going to be done for the day because he doesn't have enough time for a second one. Let's see if he'll get it on the board as he crosses the line. No, he does not. He must have had an off somewhere around there. Disappointment for the number 22 car. Wafia is still going to get a little bit more of a warm-up in, but don't believe he's got the time to complete this lap. They're running 127, so actually he might. I think there was about a minute 33 left, so yeah. It'll be awful tight, that's for sure.
He's going to have to hustle.
Around the penultimate corner. One more to go through Swan. Last time he had an off. Oh, and he's abandoning it.
Oh.
He must have had another off. Well then, he's going to have a tremendous climb to do through the field. Hopefully he doesn't have any problems partway through the race and can make it through. That's going to settle our qualifying, actually, as everybody has completed their laps that they can do. Let's go through your starting order. Ardo Iamaki is going to be on the pole for the GTP class. Fabian Gerber, who won last race, will be starting next to him. Could he swap spots for the second week in a row? Jamie Hall will be starting in third with Tobias Gerber in fourth. Then it's Martin Krejcik in P5. An incredible qualifying for the number 21 car. He is improving week after week. Phil Lake starts sixth today with Stephen Gorkup in seventh. Luis Emerton in 8th. We've seen him continue to prove he has good race pace. He needs to work on his qualifying, yet still he's in the mid-pack now. Vance Bow will be starting 9th and Levi Sluter in 10th. Then it's Michael Kopak starting row 6 in 11th. Heitor Sindez-Galindo in 12th and David Toth in P13. John Keefe will be 14th and David Slee will be P15. David Sanchez comes over from the Lotus 49s to try and compete here, starting 16th. Hideki Koivisto will be 17th, and Graham Sanders and Ryan Lang did not get qualifying times in the GTPs. Let's go to the GTO class. Nick?
Rob Olenek, after a great battle last week with Joni Hagner, he's going to have the pole. Joni Hagner, like you said earlier, didn't make the race today. He's going to be alongside Riley Thompson in row 1. Row 2, also a pair of stars there. Milan Arnozzi and Nick Mukanos are going to be 3rd and 4th. 5th place in GTO is going to be Ove Tringrade in the 6th. Dennis Neidhart, Ben Lafter, Reed Miller, Tanner McCullough is here today. He's going to be in 9th. Adam Lindgren will round out the top 10 in the GTOs. Caden Bean, Sergey Serbin, Yoni Anella are going to be following them, with the last 3 cars going to be Javier Lago, the last car to get a qualifying time in, and Kieradan Buafia and Dave Peterson will not get a qualifying time in today. They'll be 34th and 35th overall today in the race.
Apologies for the lack of graphics for the grid. We have technical issues. We'll get the timing and scoring back up here in a moment. Thankfully, we still got pictures. The Porsche pace car leading them around the southern loop for this rolling start. Last week, it was a whole lot of 90-degree corners and some very long straights. Very, very different here today with Phillip Island, Nick. I expect a completely different dynamic from what we experienced last week.
Yeah, there's a few similarities. There's a couple of turns that remind me of turns at Road America. The southern loop here, kind of like the carousel over at Road America, but the hills here and just the whole dynamic of avoiding traffic here is going to be so different. Road America, it's very easy in a lot of parts to pull over. Track is great for multi-class racing. This one's going to be a lot more interesting, a lot more challenging, I think, for some of these guys to maneuver around traffic.
This one of those elevation changes you mentioned, climbing steeply uphill through Siberia up to the upper half of the course on the back stretch. This is one of those parts we keep talking about that winds back and forth through the S's that include Hayshed, here the right-hander. And then you've got Lukey Heights, the ever-decreasing climbing left-hander, up to the highest point on the circuit, and then you plunge downhill into MG. Potentially holds an opportunity for passes, but it is difficult. See if anybody tries it today. The sharp right-hand hairpin leads into the final 2 corners. Then the pace car will drop them off, and it is going to be Ardo Iamaki who has control of the field. Now, he had control of the field last time, but he got overtaken by Fabian Gerber. And eventually, Gerber went on to win the race. Is he going to be able to pull that move again? No waiting for the likes of Ardo Iamaki. Immediately starts to streak away. Green flag is out here for round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. Already got a challenge for second place. Jamie Hall looking around the outside, coming up into Doohan. Can he get it done? Oh, and he actually comes together. He's off track, spearing into the grass. That's going to give second place back to Gerber. Otherwise, we got a car off. I believe that might be John Keith going into the grass in the southern loop. Let's go to the Audis to see if that one is cleaner.
It's cleaner, but not any less hectic. Rob Olenek almost lost the lead to Riley Thompson at the beginning, and then Milan Arnozzi shot up the middle. It was double file all the way deep through the field for the first couple of turns, but right now Olenek is pulling away from him.
Correcting myself, that was Emerton who went off in the southern loop, unfortunately. Already the Audis hitting Honda corner, and it is an absolute traffic jam into this slow right-hander. Everybody through safe and clean. So in the Nissans, Gerber with a slight bit of contact. Does Fabian have any damage from that? It was side to side. Hopefully he doesn't have any sort of damage to his suspension through that. It is now his brother behind him, Tobias Gerber, in the number 13, giving chase.
Yeah, I don't see any cosmetic damage on Fabian Gerber's number 1 car there, but like he said, very easy for these Nissans to accumulate some undercarriage damage and something in the suspension. So I'd be watching out for that later in the race.
Meanwhile, Reed Miller in a nice battle. Don't have to go to it, but I can report that Sintes Galindo had an off in the GTPs. That sends him to the very back. Miller fighting for 7th place with Tanner McCullough, managing to hold him off for the moment.
A really defensive line there for Reed Miller. I don't know if he meant to swing it that wide, get that shallow into that turn, but that really caught Tanner McCullough off guard and off the pace a little bit for a moment. We look back with Ben Laughter right now ahead of him.
Yeah, Ben Laughter leading this train of cars. He sits P6, but it is a big gap up in front of him. McCullough takes another peek on Miller down into Honda, but nothing doing this time. It's Ove Trangerade behind him, who's under attack from Adam Lindgren. Lindgren also not successful.
Yeah, Tanner McCullough fighting for that spot over Reed Miller, and already just that little bit of a stack-up caused him to have to go straight to a defensive motion to try to block off Trangerade and Lindgren now, under fire from all directions here in the Audis.
Tell you what, the top of the Audi is also in a nice little fight. Riley Thompson is applying immense pressure to Rob Oledick, and Oledik's used to that today. He withstood quite a bit of that from the Lotus 49 race with Ove Trangerade chasing him much of that race at Tsukuba. Hopping down south here to Australia, he comes onto the front stretch with a nice run, but the draft going to give Riley Thompson a phenomenal run. He looks around the outside. We're going to go too wide into Doohan. Thompson, though, slots back into position.
Doohan corner here, just like so many of them here at Phillip Island. You have to be really brave to go through their side-by-side. It's so easy to lose traction and grip on the outside, and Riley Thompson slid back in line there. Probably the smart thing to do here early in the race.
You can see the train of cars behind them. That's Neidhart, Mukanos, and Arnozzi as we switch back up to 11th. For the GTP class, David Slee in front of Jamie Hall, still trying to make his run back through the field. A little side-by-side action between Koivisto and Emerton. Emerton, another one who had an off in the southern loop, I mentioned, trying to climb forward. He's made his way back to 14th.
We've seen Koivisto a lot recently in past seasons in the Audi. Nice to see him over here in the Nissan, doing a great job right now back in 12th, holding off the likes of Luis Emerton.
Not sure who that was in the GTOs coming out of the pits, but too wide as Jamie Hall gets chopped off by David Slee through Doohan.
Slee goes back to the bottom. He's going to be able to scoot away from there. That turn through that whole section there seems so endless for those drivers. right back to the inside goes Jamie Hall. He's going to look for that position. I think he's going to have it.
He's got the better run off of the southern loop. Clearly outbreaks him. Now side by side between Koivisto and Emerton. Emerton also now bumping up to P13 as positions change in the mid-pack for the GTP class. Oh, and a spin behind them. That's Ryan Lang. Through Siberia, it swaps ends, doesn't hit anything, but he loses a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, that was all by himself. He had Stephen Warcup behind him, but he got through there cleanly as well.
Now that was Kiradine Boafia going by him, and for some reason number 23 is, oh, as Lang has another off. That does not look like a good handling car. Boafia is a lap down. I'm not sure what happened to him there. Maybe he started from the pits?
He may have.
I'll have to look into that, try to figure out what went down. Meanwhile, poor David Slee is not getting a break. He's now under threat from Luis Emerton after losing out to Jamie Hall. Another position slips through his finger. The number 14 car of Emerton up to 12th. 2 places in 2 laps.
And the battle for second in the Audis just got good for a moment. Riley Thompson had a big slide, and he was able to catch it, but Milana Arnozzi closed the gap on the number 7 car. And it is a line of 4 cars because they have Dennis Neidhart and Nicholas Mukanos right behind him.
Oh, sorry, we had a big incident with David Slee. Let's go back to him in the GTPs. It was coming off just as we switched over from Honda corner. He and Warcup came together with some wheel spin from the yellow car of Slee.
Ooh, he did indeed. Lots of right side damage on David Slee's car.
Poor Stephen Warcup, bit of an innocent victim. You could see Slee outbreaks himself there from through the windscreen of the Canadian. Oh man, that was a hard hit. What does that do to Warcup? They both fell backwards. They're now 16th and 17th, still together and still running. So the damage maybe not enough to end their races, but oof. You can see on the left front, you mentioned the visible damage there. Look at the number 3 car. Heading back to the GTO class. We were trying to watch this battle earlier. It gave a sigh of relief to Olenek because of it setting them back. Thompson in the clutches of Arnozzi, and Neidhart also dealing with Mukanos behind him as we ride on board with Dennis.
Yeah, Neidhart was right up on the back bumper of Milan Arnozzi, but like you said, he's fallen off here, mostly because I think he's being distracted by Nick Mukanos behind him. Mukanos is going to go to his left. That's going to become the outside as they head into Doohan Corner here.
This didn't work for other drivers before, and it's not going to work for Mukanos. He backs out of it once they enter the corner.
We tried the crossover. Neidhart got up on the curbing just a little bit. Mukanos might have a big run here.
Well, that turned into a very clever move from Nick Mukanos, who slips into 5th past the likes of Dennis Neidhart. Let's see if he tries to come back at him. Just a little too far back into Honda.
That's just a good example there of how the racing is, with the track switching back and forth directions so many times. This battle behind them, though, oh my goodness, Reed Miller and Ben Laughter are side by side in front of Tanner McCullough.
Miller tries to come back through Siberia. He's got a nose in, but he's not side by side anymore. Ben Laughter able to solidify the position. Tanner McCullough giving watch from behind, sizing them up, seeing if he can maybe get involved, but now they've got the GTP cars coming through. We've had so much action, we failed to notice that the GTO class is getting lapped now.
Those are the 2 leaders in GTP as well. Iamaki currently leading over Fabian Gerber, but Gerber has really closed that gap.
Don't need to go to it. I can report David Sanchez. Sanchez had an off and has fallen back to 18th. Oh, Riley Thompson. That was... No, now he's just showboating. If we can get a replay of this. Thompson with another huge drift. He was completely perpendicular to the track. Watch this.
Joe, how many times have we seen Riley Thompson pull off one of these rallycross style power slides? Just incredible.
He's getting too much practice with this. And he's only down in 4th. He lost only 2 positions from that incident.
Oh, it is a traffic jam, though, right now. The 2 GTP leaders are right there. Arnotzi slides just a little bit in front of them. And behind them, the GTOs continue to battle on.
Yeah, we haven't had time to really cover that battle for the lead. Yamaki is still ahead of Gerber, and they've got a gap back to 3rd, 2.7 seconds, but is staying within a second between our top 2 as they slice through the last of that GTO field. Oh, but
big traffic jam behind him.
Olenek was in a bad spot for Gerber, and Fabian lost a fair bit of time having to slide through the inside of MG.
Behind them, Martin Kraytrick and Phil Lake are coming through as well. They got through cleanly, but it was 3 wide for a moment in a couple different sections.
Yeah, we saw in the back of the screen David Toth, Tobias Gerber, and Nick Mukanos all surviving that, coming off of Swan. Oh my goodness, that's
wow.
Milan Arnotzi, who has to take off the racing line at the last moment to let Toth through. Oh, we've got a big incident on the front stretch. Mike Kopak involved. Adam Lindgren involved. Our champion last season in the AM category for the GTO cars. This involved Koivisto as well. He was being passed by Kopak. Ooh, they were going at a high rate of knots when that happened. And then more cars are trying to fly through as they tried to right themselves.
Saw Tanner McCullough get off into the gravel. Very similar to Riley Thompson through there as well.
Koivisto survives it, but just barely. Well, we wondered about if we'd see a little bit of chaos out here, and that certainly was some of that. Koivisto still running P12, looking to try to chase down Vince Bau, but he's got a bit of a gap to do so. Let's look at 6th place in the GTOs. Ben Laughter still fighting with Reed Miller. Also, don't forget Ove Trangrade in the mix. He's close behind the Dirty Torque car.
That's Hideki Koivisto, the GTP, getting through there right now.
Flashing his lights at them, making sure they're aware he's there. He's going to have to go the long way around of Ben Laughter, but I think he'll find the grip, and he lets them be. They are going to have Graham Sanders suddenly passing them. That could affect this now as they start to get into the twistier bits. Ove Trangrade on Reed Miller looking to the inside, but he's way too deep, takes them both all the way to the outside edge of the track. Reed Miller stays on the pavement, but Trangrade does not.
Reed Miller gave him just a little bit of a nudge when he came through there too hot. That's what sent him off into the grass.
And Sintes Galindo, we switched over to Arnozzi, but they just went past a GTP car off track. That was Ettore Sintes Galindo, who unfortunately in Siberia swapped ends and then had to get it going. Take a look at the replay on this one. He was in the midst of all that battling in the GTO cars. So he managed not to hit anything, but he was stuck out in the gravel for a moment.
Yeah, stuck on the outside like you said there, and it's just so hard to find grip out there.
Back on track. Let's take a look at Arnozzi. We were trying to watch the battle between himself and Nick Mukanos. Koivisto is amongst them. Should be able to outbrake them cleanly into Honda, but is he going to hold up Arnozzi? They don't get off the slow corners as well. Doesn't hold him up, thankfully.
That put a big gap in between Arnozzi and Mukanos just for the moment. Mukanos on the inside of Graham Sanders right now.
Sanders gets through. That actually allows Riley Thompson to regain some ground on these two. Remember, he had his off earlier on. Let's watch from his perspective. Last season's champion in the GTO class.
He's currently riding 4th right now, which is pretty incredible. We've seen him slide through a couple of turns, especially that one very dramatic entrance right back onto the front stretch right about here.
But too far back from Mukanos. We'll get a little bit of the slipstream. You can see them weaving back and forth, trying to stay in each other's tire tracks. It looks a little bit dark out here, but it is only 6:30 virtual standard time in Australia. They're running March just before starting to become winter here down south of the equator. Up on the leaders in the GTP class, I haven't looked at them in a while. Not much has changed, but the pressure is still being applied to the number 2 machine. Gerber having a slightly harder time trying to take the lead away like he was before at Road America, and especially with this battle up in front of him. That's Lindgren and Javier Lago.
Yeah, really close call for Fabian Gerber to get through there. Now Stephen Warkup is getting through there. He's a lap down, so not for position, but he is the next Nissan behind him.
As on screen, we just saw Lindgren got into the back of Lago. That is for position between those two. Wonder if maybe Lago just missed a shift or something. Forward with Adam. Looks around the outside of Siberia. Maybe an over-under. Yes, indeed. Look at that. Finds the grip, and that bumps him up to 12th.
And that was Phil Lake going around there as well. He had to wait just a little bit for that battle to sort themselves out.
We had a very scary moment for McCullough just a moment ago. It was with Santiz Galindo coming off of Swan. Wonder if we could get a replay of this one. Let's take a look. Off the final corner, actually making contact. I think it was 3 wide.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. That was Ryan laying the car to the inside. Guindo, or Sintes Guiento, was on the outside there. Tanner McCullough was in an awful situation. He had 3 Nissans behind him heading into turns 11 and 12.
Yeah, he was trying to place his car as carefully as he could. Saw him come both sides. Oh, what a catch. Beautiful job by the Canadian to keep that pointed forward. And that allows him to stay in P8. Oh, and Sanchez finds the tires. Where is this? I think
he was trying to get around Milan Arnozzi too, so that was very close to collecting him.
They made contact.
Yeah.
You're going to see, this is in Lukey Heights. He just came up to him quicker than he expected. And unfortunately, the 32, and trying to get around, puts himself into the tires. Oh, Iamaki's had a problem. And Iamaki's actually taken a tow. What happened here?
I saw him off track a little bit, but I didn't think it... Oh, he had a big issue with... That was Sanchez getting back on track.
Oh. Unfortunate for Ardo Iamaki. Now, wasn't it last race that a little lap traffic also set him off? I'm trying to remember exactly. Yeah, hard contact. We're going to watch him on board the Finn.
Weird accident. Sanchez was spinning himself around and just got...
Well, Iamaki started to spin too.
I wonder if Iamaki was trying to avoid him kind of desperately at the last moment, if maybe he saw him up ahead.
Possible. I think it was Caden Bean. It was similar to what Sanchez experienced. Bean was in front of him and maybe just a little slower than he expected. locked it up, and unfortunately, there was a car right where he was spinning off course. So this gives the lead to Fabian Gerber once again. Fabian says he doesn't think about the championship, but if he gets 2 wins in a row... Oh, as Keith has an off, the Hoosier getting back on course. Let's see what happened to John. Side by side.
Vance Bow and Levi Sluder he was with right there. Vance Bow to his outside there.
Ooh, just way too far to the outside, maybe?
Yeah. That was actually Levi Sluder, correction on my part.
So Keith now down to 9th because of that error. As all this has been happening, let's give a quick mention. Our leader in the GTO is still Rob Olenek, and by 7.5 seconds. I'm not sure if this is due to pace or just Rob's been dealing with the traffic better.
I think a little of both. He's been very, very fast these first 2 opening weeks. It also looks like we just had Toth go off. David Toth from 3rd place.
Yeah, a lot of wheel spin coming out of Honda. He slammed it into the tire barrier, turned it around. Now, I don't think he even lost a position out of that. In fact, let's not go to replay because he's got Martin Krejcik, who gained a ton of time now closing on him. And if Toth has damage, he could be a sitting duck for the number 21.
He did lose a spot to Tobias Gerber, who was right behind him when that happened. But other than that, I think you're right. I don't think he lost any other spot.
My mistake. He was in 4th when that went down. Here comes Martin Krejcik. Well, this will be a phenomenal race for the number 21 car, especially if he can get all the way to 4th. Oh, and more contact with Toth. Ove Traegerade goes for an almighty ride into the sand trap outside of the southern loop.
Ove just got punted way out there, but there's a lot of runoff down there into the southern loop, so very good that Traegerade had that extra space to deal with there. He would be stuck in the tire barrier right now.
That gives you an idea of the speed difference between these 2 cars. He was just shot out of a rocket. So in that moment, Toth did lose more positions. Krejcik got by. Emerton has gotten by. Actually, Toth had more contact with Sanchez. We don't need to go to the replay on that. Ooh, Emerton stuck amongst McCullough trying to get by him. Just another day at Kamel GT. Everywhere you look, a battle on track, accidents happening. I'm having to catch my breath myself. It is just trying to figure out exactly where everything sits because the order has shuffled around so much.
Yeah, every single lap it seems like timing and scoring does a little bit of a pull shuffle.
Let's go back to the GTOs. We haven't really given much love to the battles here in a while. This is Laughter in P6 being chased by Reed Miller, and chased no longer because Laughter goes off. Miller beside him as they come out of Honda somehow manages to fend off Reed Miller. But as they come to the top of the course, he's very much under threat.
Yeah, I thought for sure Reed Miller would be able to get around him though, but now their eyes are on the back part of the track up through Lukey Heights and see what kind of run Reed Miller can get here.
Vince Bow works around the outside. Laughter tries to come back to the racing line just in front of Levi Sluder, and this is going to split up both of these battles that you see on screen.
Reed Miller is actually going to be close to Tanner McCullough behind him here soon, I believe.
Reed's looking very strong off of Swan. He's going to have the slipstream down the pit straight. Is this enough to bring him within striking distance? That's the question. They hit the end of it. come through Doohan, and he is now back right on top of Laughter.
See John Keefe working his way by there. No problems with them. But Reed Miller all over the back of the 15 of Laughter right now.
Tanner McCullough just watching these two. If they start to go side by side again, this is going to become a three-car battle very quickly. Defensive down into Honda this time for Ben Laughter, but he gets it woed up in time. Behind them, McCullough does not. He comes in way too hot into the corner. Loses a gap to this pair. This is where we saw them catch each other last time. Reed Miller still sizing up Ben Laughter. They hit Lukey heights now.
Ben Laughter really excelled through this portion of the track last lap. That might have been part due to traffic, though. Now that they're all by themselves, let's see if Reed Miller can get any better of a run. He might be able to as they get through turns 11 and 12 now and back onto the pit straight.
That penultimate corner just doesn't seem to agree with Miller. He lost time yet again through there.
Yeah, big gap this time between Laughter and Miller. Laughter really pulled away there.
That's unfortunate. This is exactly where Miller wants to be on top of him. Not going to be quite like last lap. Going up to 4th place in the GTPs, Luis Emerton, Martin Krejcik. This will be a fascinating battle. They've also got David Toth back there. He is in this fight. But Toth very, very damaged after multiple contacts with other cars.
Man, what a great job by David Toth, though, to stay inside the top 6 after all he's been through today.
If he can limp it home where he is, I'll be very, very impressed. Coming off of these final 2 corners, Emerton finding the power. A lot easier through this bend for the Nissan. No slipstream going to be offered up to Martin Krejcik. Going down a little farther, Trey Grade, who after being shoved off track is trying to regain some positions, challenging the likes of Caden Bean. Almost went off track there through Hayshed.
Yeah, Bean was able to slip through right on the inside of him, but now Train Grade going to have the momentum, I think. He peeks to the outside, a little bit of a bobble there for the number 6 Audi. Gets right back on the brakes and continues to try to chase down Caden Bean here.
If he can stay this close, he'll have a good opportunity. And after we're done watching this, something happened to Krejcik and Emerton. They both lost positions to Toth. We'll go that in a minute, but I think we got a pass on our hands. Here comes Trangarade with a head of steam, but he's going to be forced to go around the outside coming through Doohan. We've yet to see any of the Audis make this work. Is Trangarade going to be the first one? Yes, he is. Beautiful stuff by the Norwegian. Now, what happened to Krejcik and Emerton? This happened in Honda Corner, actually. Let's see if we can pull up the replay. Oh, and it started with Emerton. He got into the back of Javier Lago. And then from there, it was just a chain reaction. Watch this.
Oh, yeah.
David Toth says, thank you very much. Back into 4th for me.
Good thing there was not more traffic there. Emerton was sitting in a horrible spot on track there, facing completely backwards.
Emerton returns in 6th. Krejcik has now passed him in P5. Haven't missed anything up front. Fabian Gerber leading Phil Lake by 2.5 seconds. And Phil Lake going to get his 2nd podium. For a driver who said he wasn't going to be showing up much, he's certainly going to be looking very good in the championship after 2 rounds.
Well, it should be no surprise that Phillip Lake shows up at Phillip Island.
Very true. Very true. The number 5 car looking for a good result today. Only has to survive 10 more minutes. Now, oof.
Oh my gosh.
Back of the pack and the GTPs. This is Graham Sanders, Stephen Warcup, as that's the car of Caden Bean going off. Ryan Lang in there as well. Is this all? Yes, that's the all for position. That was battle for position with Ove down to the inside. Stephen Warcup getting by Graham Sanders, or is he? Sanders tries to get on the power. Looks to the inside of Siberia, but it looks like Stephen Warcup is going to shut the door and solidify P11.
Looks like Warcup had the opportunity to come down there through Siberia. I'm surprised he didn't, but instead he stayed on the outside. Kind of anticipated a bigger run from Sanders. Sanders goes really wide up through here.
Way too wide, and Ryan Lang slips through. Meanwhile, we're jumping up to McCullough. We've seen a lot of action with him. This is for 6th place. He's caught the back of Ben Laughter, who's fallen. No, actually, where did Reed Miller go? McCullough got Reed Miller at some point.
Looks like right behind them. He must have had an off in the last lap or something, because he's not lost a whole lot of ground to them, but he has lost that position.
So McCullough now challenging Ben Laughter. Laughter a little wide on the exit of the southern loop, but unfortunately McCullough not able to take advantage of it.
McCullough had a lot of momentum coming through there. He still does as he gets up on the curbing on the left side. Sharp right-hander down through here. McCullough's going to try a little bit of a crossover. Just can't make it stick there.
I have to say, though, Ben Laughter looks like he feels under threat, trying to go defensive in parts, doing everything he can to keep the bright blue car of Tanner McCullough behind him. Ooh, and Krejcik has managed to get by Toth. He ran him back down. I believe this was in the southern loop. No, it was on the front stretch. Actually, Toth was very slow.
Toth is right side by side with him already once again.
Up through Siberia, wheel to wheel. Oh, and Toth is off. He tries to keep it out of the tires. The wheel spin sent him in a little bit of a bobble. Nicely done by the number 18 to keep it out of the tires, but unfortunately that lost him about 3 seconds to Krejcik.
That looked like a combination of turbo lag and damage that he already had.
It's been a very exciting race with the number 18 car. Probably more exciting than he would have wanted, and he made contact again. This time with Sergei Serbin, and Serbin is off and into the wall. Serbin down in 11th in the GTOs. Let's take a look at the replay. Go ahead.
Serbin was all the way to the outside there, and Toth just trying to get back through, just didn't make that maneuver as soon as he should have.
Yeah, I suspect there will be some conversations with Toth post-race, unfortunately. Let's come back live. Back to Laughter and McCullough. We were watching this fight before. Oh, look to the inside from Tanner. Not successful.
You mentioned it just a couple laps ago. Ben Laughter looks like he is really under pressure right now from Tanner McCullough. And he is. Tanner McCullough is making him fight for this position every single turn.
Line Trick Motorsports car trying to make itself as wide as possible. Tobias Gerber going to leave them be as he streaks by on the front stretch. Don't forget Reed Miller. Because of this battling, he's actually been gaining on them.
He has. Reed Miller was up there fighting with Ben Laughter just half a dozen laps ago, and then we suspect he had an off or something happened to him where he got off track for a moment. And he lost that spot.
On board with Reed, looking up at this battle ahead of him. Oh, McCullough's got a nice run. Another defensive move from Ben Laughter, just keeping his car slightly to the right to deny Tanner McCullough an opportunity. Doesn't make a pass attempt. Now up through Siberia, climbing up the hill. Reed Miller continuing to reel them in. The gap is now about 1 second. clock is ticking down. Laps are running out. These drivers will have to do something if they want to manage to get by one another.
They are indeed. We're down to underneath 5.5 minutes, so McCullough has limited opportunities.
And Emerton has continued to lose places. Oh, as he goes off track, and so does his teammate. Oh. Both he and John Keefe into the grass through Lukey Heights.
Looks like Emerton's going to come out just in front of him, but Keefe now looking to the outside. I think he's going to let him by.
Yeah. Yep, he knew that Keefe's got the speed. He just wants to get to the end of this race. Keefe himself, unfortunately, catching the GTO car of Cade Bean in an awkward spot coming off the final corner, but he gets by cleanly. Oh, did Toth have Toth had another problem. This one was all of his own making, though. He went wide. I don't think we need a replay of this. He slid wide in the southern loop and just effectively decided he'd had enough for today. He towed the car and entered the pits.
Yeah, and he has taken that behind the wall. He's done for the day as well. Frustrating day, David Toth, to say the least.
Let's go back to that battle we were watching between Laughter and McCullough. They just got lapped by Martin Krejcik. They're going to have Vince Bow coming through. I heard someone sliding out. That was Luis Emerton yet again. Don't need a replay. This car seems to be handling very, very poorly. He's got it going once again. Good run here from Tanner McCullough. This is the closest we've seen him. Trying something through the southern loop, but they're being interrupted. Oh, that's Vince Bow trying to come through. This gives Tanner McCullough the chance that he's been waiting for. They're now side by side coming up to Honda. Vince goes around the outside one more time. Tanner has a nose ahead, up into the hairpin, but not the inside line. A little bit of a shove from Ben Laughter as he sneaks his car back through and once again denies McCullough.
What a fantastic job by Ben Laughter. His defense, Tanner McCullough, not an easy guy at all to hold off here, but he's done a fantastic job today so far.
Levi Sluter going to manage to get through there. Poor Vince Bow, he just wanted to get by because he was trying to chase down Krejcik and also get away from Sluter. Now, we keep watching this battle, but up ahead, this battle between Arnotzi and Mukanos also has been creeping closer and closer. This is for P2. This is a top spot.
And you see those three cars behind him. That's Javier Lago, Dave Peterson, and Yoni Anella. They are the last three cars in the Audi class right now, but they are actually fighting for position as well.
Board with the Californian Mukanos. Oh! Arnotzi deep! Arnotzi deep into Honda! And Mukanos takes advantage. He's going to be side by side. I don't think Milan's going to give this up easily. It switches back to a left-hander through Siberia. He's got to get the power down off the corner. Both of them still playing a game of chicken as they weave through, back and forth, through the S's at the top of the track. Arnotzi finds a little bit of momentum, sneaks ahead, and Mukanos back into third yet again.
Arnotzi makes it stick on the bottom for now, but Mukanos also is not going to quit this fight. He's all over the back of Arnotzi and looked to the inside there for a second, but Arnotzi cut him off.
This is Krejcik trying to find a spot. He splits them. Then he's able to get through. I think the slipstream should help Mukanos get back to the back of Arnotzi, but I don't think we'll see a pass. Meanwhile, pass is happening with McCullough and Laughter right now, side by side as they come up to Swan. Reed Miller right behind them, ready to try and take a 2-for-1 opportunity. McCullough has to give it up as he was on the outside of Swan, but he gets back into the draft of Ben Lafter. Now coming down the front stretch, Lafter defends to the inside of Doohan. We saw Trangrade pull this one off. Can McCullough do it? He's trying. He manages to hold his ground as it switches back into the southern loop. McCullough finally gets himself into P6.
But you got to be careful. We've seen the crossover from people like Lafter right now in their situation. However, Lafter did not get a great run out of there. He's now going to have Reed Miller behind him.
And we've got the white flag as all this action has been happening while Fabian Gerber leading the way. He's got half a lap to go. Watching McCullough and Lafter still very close together. Don't forget Reed Miller in there. He looks like he's starting to threaten on Lafter. This is all fighting for 6th place amongst these three. Panos and Arnozzi very close to one another, but 2 more corners to go for Fabian Gerber. This is the sort of race I think he would have liked. Just controlling the fields. The number 1 car put it in second for the 2nd race in a row, and for the 2nd race in a row, he's going to take the victory here in Australia for the number 1. Olenek with an 11-second gap back to Milan Arnozzi. That's the battle we'll want to watch when it gets closer to the end. Rob, similarly, just controlling the pace, deciding how this race is run on his own terms. I'd say this will be a day to remember for Rob Olenek. Back-to-back victories in 2 different series. Up to 2 corners to go. Just letting Levi Sluter through. Rob Olenek going from pole to victory. His Audi GTO takes the win here in round 2.
Arnozzi is going to be able to hold off Mukanos. It looks like they had a couple of Nissans go through, like Vince Bao and John Keefe ahead of him. It's going to be enough for Milan Arnozzi to stay up in 2nd. And the podium in the Audis will wrap up with Nicholas Mukanos right behind him.
We've got Tanner McCullough ahead of Ben Lafter. Took him a lot of laps to do it. And Lafter just on the final lap will prevent Reed Miller from managing to get him, as those 3 finish in order 6th, 7th, and 8th in the GTO class. I believe that should be pretty much everybody. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews on screen. You're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. The sun sets here at Phillip Island. We just watched round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and Fabian Gerber is 2 for 2. Coming back after losing out on the championship, he sets himself up with a perfect 2 races. Phillip Lake finishes second behind him with his second podium, despite saying he's not really going to be competing consistently this season. Tobias Gerber, it's 2 Gerbers on the podium, finishing third for him. Martin Krejcik, nicely done, a 4th place finish for the number 21, with Levi Sluter going from 10th to 5th. And also even more spots for John Keefe, 14th on the grid, up to 6th place. Vance Bow, finishing P7 with Luis Emerton. This was a struggle today for Luis. He finished a lap down in 8th. Stephen Warkup takes 9th, Hideki Koivisto in 10th, and Ryan Lang in 11th. Then it's Graham Sanders finishing P12. David Sanchez 2 laps down in 13th. Heitor Sintes Guindo 14th, and David Slee P15. Let's go to the GTO class.
Rob Olenek capturing his first win of the season here at round 2 at Phillip Island at the top. Milan Arnozzi with a hard-fought second-place finish over Nick Mukanos. There was a big gap, though, between first and second, but behind them it was a traffic jam. Arnozzi moves up 5 spots to second, Mukanos to third. Riley Thompson, he had a wild day. He looked like a rallycross driver a couple times, but we've seen him do that before and pull off great finishes. He does it again today in Australia. He will finish 4th with Dennis Neidhart behind him. Tanner McCullough just edged Ben Laughter with an incredible battle there at the end for 6th place in the class. So Laughter will finish behind him with Reed Miller, Caden Bean, Ove Trengrade rounding out the top 10 in the Audis. Adam Lindgren behind him. He was in a couple of battles himself. Giradine Buafia, we believe he started from the pits. He's going to find himself 7 spots up from where he started there behind Lindgren. Sergey Serbin, Javier Lago, Dave Peterson, and Yoni Anella will round out your field of Audis.
We're going to talk to our winner today, Fabian Gerber, and hopefully we won't have to make this too quick because we know the Super Session is getting ready to start. Fabian, 2 for 2 this season, both times starting from 2nd place. That's a good record.
Yes, very good, very good. Even though there's a little bit I feel sad about my incident with Jamie Hall, I'm really sorry about his result because he had the speed to get on the podium. So I'd like to apologize to him.
Now, are you taking part in the Super Session here in a moment? Because we don't want to keep you too late if you need to go soon.
No. This was enough for me. I don't.
It looked frantic from our perspective. We were constantly having to jump around to cover action. What was it like for you? You held a gap both over Iamaki and then a big one over Phil Lake. Was it frantic for you?
Yes, very frantic. It was the most difficult traffic, I think, in Kamel GT I've ever survived, so to say. It was horrible at times. Sometimes it was foreseeable, sometimes not at all. It was really difficult on this track. I don't know if it was different situations or the drivers. I don't know. It was very difficult. I think for everyone. Phil made up a lot of time in a couple of laps, and then I made a lot of time. So I guess it was just a question of luck, how you got through it when you got them in front of you.
Well, we've got a lot of people that we're trying to talk to here before the Super Session gets going. Yes. So we'll talk to you later, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Fabian Gerber, winner in the GTPs. Not up next, we've got Riley Thompson, who finished 4th in the GTOs. Nick?
Yeah, Riley Thompson, like you said, finished 4th today. Much better result than you had last week, but you had a couple of scary moments today where we saw you pull off a couple of rallycross moves like we're used to seeing you sometimes. How'd you keep it together, though, and keep it together for a P4?
Honestly, I was just trying not to push the car too hard. A lot of these corners here, the car has a tendency to push out the rear end, so as long as you can control that, I think you can find some decent speed in the car.
A little bit of a more narrow track than we're used to and a couple of blind, hilly turns. Was that a big challenge today with the Nissans coming up on you out of nowhere, or did you think everyone up front at least had their backs covered?
I think there were a couple of corners where you could see the Nissans, but just with how the Audi has its line, it was a little bit tough, but there weren't really any issues with blind corners.
All right, so You running the Super Session next, or are we going to have to wait till Circuit of the Americas next week to see you?
Yeah, I may or may not be in qualifying right now, so.
All right. Well, we'll let you go for that. Good luck with that, and also congratulations on your good race today.
Thanks, guys.
That was Riley Thompson, 4th GTOs. We've got Phil Lake with us, 2nd place in the GTPs. Hopefully we're not interrupting his qualifying as well too much. Phil, it's in and around the island in 2nd place for you today. Not bad for a driver not competing for the championship this season.
Yeah, not too bad. Better than I expected, definitely. I think I've surprised myself with my pace is nearly with the leaders, so very happy with my pace so far this season.
Now, unfortunately, I almost wonder if your teammates probably not going to want to have you race anymore, because twice now you've inherited positions when he's fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, he's not having a lot of luck this season so far. But yeah, I think things will change. I've got some bad luck coming, I'm sure, and yeah, it'll all even itself out towards the end of the season.
Now, are you taking part in the Super Session right now, or are we interrupting anything?
No, I just finished my qualifying lap, so just in time.
All right, perfect timing for us.
Yeah.
So best of luck on that. Hopefully you get another good finish with the top of the top, and we will see you in a week's time, sir.
Yeah, see you there. Thanks, guys.
Was Phil in and around the lake. Phillip Island, as Nick mentioned very appropriately, named this season. Up next, we saw Laughter have a lot of fun out there. Nick is going to talk to him about his battles.
Yeah, he comes home P7 today, but Ben, I'm sure you would have liked to come home P6. That was a heck of a battle you had there at the end with Tanner McCullough.
I feel like I came home P1 as hard as I fought for it, guys. That was a blast. Tanner and Reed put on a heck of a fight there. That was a lot of fun.
We haven't seen you too much run this series consistently, at least in the last couple seasons that I've helped cover here. Do you think you're going to join us a bit more in Kamel GT? You seem to have quite a bit of speed out there.
Yeah, so I mean, once upon a time when Kamel was new, I was a podium contender every week, and then everyone else got good and I didn't, and I started pushing too hard, and I sort of lost my passion for it. So I took about 2 seasons off, but I think I'm back now. I smiled enough today to last me the season.
Awesome. Well, it was always great to have new drivers come in, or returning drivers, I should say, come in, put up a lot of speed. Should we expect to see you a week's time down in Austin, Texas for the next race?
We're at COTA next week. So I have a deep-seated hatred of COTA, but I'll probably be there.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you there. Are you running the Super Session right now, or?
No, I can't. I got to go do some stuff. But I heard you back there in the background there, Sean. Listen, I like Suzuka's S's at Suzuka, and I like La Source at Spa. I don't need them in Austin. Be original, guys.
All right. Well, that is Ben Laughter with his opinions and also his very fast race car. So a great run today for him. Joe, I believe you've caught up with one more driver.
Yeah, I'm ignoring the weeping coming from the background right now with our director. But John Keefe gained a number of positions, and not without a little bit of elbows out along the way. Looked like you had an exciting moment into Doohan at one point with Sintez Gaindo.
Yeah, a little bit of a door banger there. I don't think he went off there. I'm not sure, but I think we both survived that fairly well.
He did, unfortunately, take to the grass, but he was able to continue, thankfully. You climbed all the way from 14th on the grid up to P6. How much do you attribute that to pace, and how much to the attrition we saw today? There was many cars off in the grass.
Yeah, just being honest, attrition. I really was way off the pace here, but a lot of guys picked up some aero damage. And then you just, reel them in on the straightaways. So that's how most of my position gains came. So I just ran a game of survival with this one today.
Well, we heard strong opinions a minute ago from Ben Laughter about COTA. With you being a Hoosier and IndyCar being there this weekend, do you intend to show up in a week's time, or are you similar to Ben and that not a big fan of the track in Texas?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan. Going off of some of Ben Laughter's comments that I've seen in the past, I agree with everything he's ever said about COTA. But I'll run the race. Is that where we are next week, actually? I'm not even sure. Okay.
Indeed.
Yep. So, yeah. I mean, I'll run it, but I definitely don't enjoy the track at all. Another person I agree with would be Sebastian Bourdais. If anyone's seen the Racer YouTube channel, interviews with him, he has a lot of similar things that he says about the track as well.
Well, we'll let you go, John. Congratulations on managing top 6 today, and hopefully you'll be able to do well at a track that doesn't seem to be well loved.
Yeah, we'll see. Anything to make up for my Road America race 1 this season, anything, I'll take it.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for our interviews here today. That was John Keefe with P6 out on the track at Phillip Island. And as we close up, I'm having to pull the tub of ice cream away from Sean Ambrose, who seems to have found himself a corner to cry quietly. And a big thank you to the likes of the Kamel GT series for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. All you got to do to get all of their races on your YouTube feed is subscribe. Just click that big red subscribe button to do so. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page as well, to GSRC, and hit that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As we mentioned, going down to Texas for Circuit of the Americas Saturday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.